Hey, good to have you here. We're gonna get into some code and get into a little bit of React. My name's Josh Foreman. Let's jump right into it. So today we are talking about, boom, conditional rendering, uh, making it so that stuff is visible sometimes and not visible others. Yep. Um, and text input handling, so making it so that you can input a little bit of text and we'll display that text on the screen. So we are going to do both of these things here in a little bit of a fill in the blank. So we're going to be using one of the great tools of our age, Code Sandbox. Incredibly awesome stuff. I'll provide a link to this as well, and you can follow along here. There's no content here because we're creating it as we speak. So here we are. You follow that here into our Code Sandbox, and I can provide that with the YouTube as well if you're following along and not part of the class and just kind of want to check this out. So this is a basic React app. Boom, not a big deal. Basic structure inside of the main HTML. You got your head and your body like normal. Inside of your body, we ultimately have one thing. That's the root. That's what's being used by React. It's grabbing root. It's making app happen. And inside of app is where we live and we're working today. Usually you would want to build this out into further components, but we're just going to kind of like do this all in one for simplicity and pedagogical reasons. So let's jump into it. Boom. First, let's make a now you see me, now you don't button. The kind of like, it's like a peekaboo. Let's make a peekaboo screen. There's a button that you can click to toggle it on and off. So that'll be like our conditional rendering. So we'll say one says now you see me. On the second page, you can imagine it says now you don't. We'll get rid of all this other stuff here. We don't need a file structure. So we'll say, now that you see me, now you don't. Which I think is kind of just funny because it's right there that you see them, now you don't. And of course we'll want a button that toggles these on and back and forth. And so we'll do that like this, button. And then of course that'll need a closer. And we'll title it just boo. I don't know, why not? So when you click boo, it should go from now you see me to now you don't. And we can do this really simply with an idea of hooks. Now, there are a whole bunch of different ideas and ways to approach like visibility and invisibility, and this is but one of many, but this one's really like nice. So we're gonna make a hook like we did before, and we're gonna call that hook, we're gonna create a constant called see me. Yeah, let's call it see me. And see me is going to be a boolean. It's going to be either true or false. And at first you do see me, and so we want that to be set to true at first. Okay, cool. All right, not a problem. Now that see me is true, we can set up the see me line and connect it to that true or false. Let me show you how that happens. So if we connect that line, see me, and we'll surround it in curly braces, which if you'll remember from before, that allows us to access JavaScript. We're going to use some fancy script now. We're going to say if see me is true, if see me is true, then also do this. Okay, so if see me is true and double ands means and this is true, which HTML just defaults as true. So this returns as true. This has to be one item that it returns. So if it's many items, it has to be wrapped in a div. But so if see_me is true and that part's true, and that part is always true, so this is ultimately saying, hey, if see_me is true, then do this. And right now we have see_me is set to true. If we set that to false, false, hey, it disappears, right? Because see_me is not true, so see_me and that are not true, therefore it doesn't show that. Boom. That is what's going on. And now we can use that idea, but we want to connect that to a button, right? We want to connect this to a button. We want it to have ultimately a state that changes from true or false. And if we're using state, we got to do exactly that. We're going to use state with a hook, just like we did before. So we're going to say, hey, see_me is going to be the variable. Set see_me is going to be the name of the function, the way that we kind of like change the see_me state. And that is wrapped inside of those boom, boom, they hard brackets. Yeah, there you go. And of course, we want this original state to be false, so we're going to have to use that special hook, use state, and that gets to go in parentheses as false. So in order to use state, though, the special hook, we have to import it up top from React. And again, here we import React from React, but you don't have to nowadays, but we do. It's kind of like it kind of declares it is React, but you don't have to. And but we do want use state. Boom. So we've imported that React template. Oh yeah, I want to fork this. I was working on the template. Let me fork this. Boom. All right. So now we got a fork. Hopefully, great. And save your work, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. This is called we're doing example class examples. We'll name it now. I'll get a better name later. But so here we go. Booyah! We got now a function, as it were, a hook that will allow us to change that state from false to true. And let's start with true. So we want to connect that to the button. And let me show you a really easy way of doing that. And we're not showing anything in the moment, so let's refresh our browser here. Alright, so now we have both of those. And so we can set this up like this. We can say on click. Let's give an on click property to this button, and we'll say on click. Now we can do a few things, but I think a clever way of doing it, we could call a function outside of the on click, but instead let's say that when you click it, we do the function set see_me, and we're going to set it to false, right? Because it's currently set to true. So on this, we have see_me set to true at first. We have set see_me as this function that gets called on clicking that button. Make it a little bit so you can see the whole line. Boom. On click, yeah. When you click that button, do the arrow function, and we need the arrow function because it creates a loop. It's problematic if it's not. So this says, hey, wait until the click as it functionally speaking. So boom, on the click, it sets see_me to false. And let's see if that works. So we set that up, it's saved, and I click it. Hey, what do you know? It works. Fantastic. Now, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. One slight thing that this isn't doing, I'm noticing, I would love it to like show it again, right? And make the other thing disappear. I would love for them to like kind of alternate. So let's make both of those things happen. in order to make, which one should we do first? Let's first just look at the button going back and forth. By making it, every time you click the button, right, it sets state to false. But we don't really want to set state to false every time. We want to go to true, false, true, false. So whatever CME is, remember that's the variable that holds that variable. CME is currently true. So whatever CME is, we want to do the opposite of, right? And there's this fancy syntax that you can write. So we want to set it to not CME. This would set it to true every time. So if I save this, I click it. Let's refresh. It's doing false every time because our current state is false. But all right, so current state true. Current state true, right? Every time you click it, it's going to set it to whatever CME is, which is true. And so right now when I click it, it doesn't do anything. I want it to do whatever the opposite of true of you see me. And so the opposite syntax is an exclamation point. So it says whatever CME is, do the opposite. So let's see if that works out. We save this and boom, we click this and hey, yeah, now every time we click it, it does the opposite, right? It's the opposite. Now, cool, one problem solved. The other one is we want it to go back and forth. So remember we set this up originally with these brackets. We said, hey, if CME is true, then show this. We're going to do a similar thing with this second set. We're going to say, hey, if CME is true, so right now this says if CME is true, do this, and if CME is true, also do this. So now our button is set so both of them are on and off at the same time. We don't want that. We want it to, if CME is true, do this. If CME is false, do this, and we will do that inversion button again, like this. Yeah, and so like this, we'll kind of get the opposite results every time. Boom, getting. Now our button is an alternator. Yeah, it's going back and forth with the true and false. Excellent. Very nice. Oh, you know what? We are at 12 minutes, and so I know I said that we were going to do text inputs, but let's do that on a separate video. This will be continued. This will be like part one. So, boom, there we go. Is quick review. What did we just learn? Hey, conditional rendering. You can tie the rendering of some stuff to a value with the AND, double AND button, yeah? And we can set it up with a hook like this. Using it with a hook, this is the variable that holds our value, initial value. And then the second one is that function that lets you change that guy. We call it on a button click. We added an on click to our button using the arrow notation. We set CME to whatever CME wasn't, but whatever it is, but then make it the opposite, right? And so we use similar kind of logic with this opposite idea. So if this one's true, then this one would be false, and so that they wouldn't both be iterating at the same time. Okay, fantastic, wonderful, so happy having you here. That's our wrap up for conditional rendering. Have a great day, happy coding.